Hello dear students and welcome to my YouTube channel House of English. Today I am going to take up the third chapter of Flamingo Deep Water by William Douglas. In this part 1 I will give you an introduction to the chapter and will explain you the chapter in detail, giving you the word meanings and notes related to the part that I am going to discuss today. Dear students, the chapter is an autobiographical account of William Douglas where he talks about his fear of water, how he developed that fear of water. Then he discusses the impact of that fear on his life and later how he overcame that fear. A little introduction about William Douglas is very important to know about the chapter, to understand the chapter well. William Douglas had been an advisor and a friend to Franklin D. Roosevelt, the President of America, and he had been the longest serving justice in the history of court. This following chapter is an excerpt from his book of Men and Mountains by William O. Douglas, where he has narrated or he has written an account of his near-death experience at YMCA pool and how that experience changed his life completely. Later, when he realized that he cannot live a life like that, he decided to overcome his fear by determination and by strong will. I am now going to summarize the entire chapter. In this chapter, William Douglas talks about his deep-rooted fear of water which he has developed due to two mishaps that took place in his life when he was a young boy. This fear was so deep-rooted that it has affected his life badly. And in this chapter, he talks about the development of the fear, then its impact upon his life, and later how he overcame that fear so that he could live a happy life. Dear students, now I am going to discuss the key elements of the chapter. You may take it as a theme and sub-themes of the chapter, but keeping in mind that the chapter revolves around these key elements and you need to answer questions related to those themes and sub-themes. So if you understand those key elements, it becomes easy for you to answer those questions related to themes and sub-themes. The first key element is all we fear is fear itself. We are going to discuss on this sentence which has been spoken by President Roosevelt himself and how the author talks about this particular sentence and explain to us through his own experience. Second important thing is childhood fears must not be taken lightly. He discusses that how that aversion to water started when he was just 3 or 4 years old, and later when he was 10 or 11 years old it deepened. So it has to be dealt, such types of fear which develops at a childhood stage has to be dealt seriously. They should never be taken on a lighter note. Next theme is one has to deal with one's own fear by oneself. No outside force can help you remove your fears that you have created for yourself or that has been built by some bad experience. This is a very important element of the chapter, that how it is necessary that one must remove one's own fear by oneself. External help could be useful to a certain extent, but all the work has to be done by yourself. And the last theme is strong will and determination help us conquer our fears. So it is definitely related to the theme that I have just discussed previously. The third theme, that we have to fight against our own fears. And how are we going to fight against our own fears is by our strong will and by our determination. So this chapter talks about all these elements. Let's move ahead. I'm now going to explain you the chapter line by line. We'll also provide you word meanings and notes wherever necessary.
Chapter 3, Deep Water. I have already discussed about William Douglas earlier, so let us start with the explanation of the chapter. It had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. The writer William Douglas narrates the incident and recounts that the mishap, took place when he was 10 or 11 years old. I had decided to learn to swim when he had decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at YMCA in Yakima. Yakima is a place in America, and YMCA means Young Men's Christian Association, and it had a swimming pool which offered the opportunity to the beginners or to the learners to learn swimming. That offered exactly the opportunity. The Yakima River was treacherous. Treacherous means dangerous, untrustworthy. He could not trust the Yakima River because it was not fit or good for the learners. Mother continually warned against it and kept fresh in my mind the details of each drowning in the river. And William Douglas' mother, was totally against him going into Yakima River for learning swimming. But the YMCA pool was safe. It was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other. The drop was gradual. Now, he considered YMCA pool as safe because it was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end where he could start learning, and towards the deeper side it was 9 feet, but the drop was gradual. The slope from shallow towards the deeper side was a gradual one. It was not a sudden one, it was gradual. I got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. So he purchased a pair of water wings which are going to support him while learning swimming, and so he started going to the pool. I hated to walk naked into it and show my skinny legs, but I subdued my pride and did it. Since he had very thin legs, skinny is thin legs, and he didn't like walking naked, but somehow he suppressed his pride and started learning swimming. From the beginning, however, I had an aversion to the water when I was in it. Whenever he was in any kind of water body, he had a strong dislike towards the water. This is because of an experience he had at the California beach, which he is telling us in the next few lines. This started when I was 3 or 4 years old, and father took me to the beach in California. He and I stood together in the surface wave. They were just enjoying the big waves coming. I hung on to him. He was holding his father tightly, and yet the waves knocked me down and swept over me. The waves threw him down and he was buried. I was buried in the water. He was buried in the water. My breath was gone. I was frightened. He was really scared since his breath was gone, and he could see the powerful waves upon him. Father laughed and tried to comfort him, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the waves. Due to this incident, a terror was sown into his heart, and therefore he had an aversion towards water. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and stirred childish fears. Now, when he started going to the YMCA pool to learn swimming, the unpleasant memories of the incident that happened at the California beach revived. Revived means came back into his mind and stirred. It moved his childish fears, though the fears were not worth enough to be afraid of water when he was learning swimming, yet it really moved him. But in a little while I gathered confidence. Now, as he was going to the pool regularly, he started gaining confidence. I paddled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn by aping them. He started Paddling is walking into the water with his new pair of water wings, and he continuously watched the other boys who were swimming into the pool and tried learning the art of swimming by copying them. Aping them is copying them. I did this 2 or 3 times on different days and was just beginning to feel at ease in water when the misadventure happened. He tried imitating the boys a couple of days and was feeling a bit comfortable. Feel at ease means a bit comfortable in the water when that misadventure happened. Now, the writer tells us about the misadventure that happened with him at the YMCA pool. I went to the pool when no one else was there. One day he went to the pool and found that no one was there. The place was quiet, the water was still, and the tiled bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. He was just sitting at the side of the pool and observing that the water was still, it was pristine, it was clear, and he was sitting at the side of the pool and observing all this. I was timid about going alone. He was afraid. Timid is afraid. He didn't have enough courage to go in the pool all alone. So I sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. I had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy, probably 18 years old. Now, while he was sitting for and waiting for others to come, a big bruiser is a strong, aggressive kind of person. A boy, maybe 18 years old, came and talked to the writer. He had thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen. Specimen is example. He was a good looking boy with legs and arms that showed rippling muscles. Rippling is toned muscles. He was a strong person, a strong man. He yelled, "Hi Skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" Now, he asked William Douglas that if he wanted to be thrown into the water or under the water. The very next moment, he picked William Douglas and tossed him into the deeper end. With that, he picked me up and tossed me into the deep end. I landed in a sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once to the bottom. Now, he landed into the deeper side of the swimming pool in a sitting position, and he was moving downwards. While he was moving downwards, he swallowed water and went immediately to the bottom. I was frightened, but not yet frightened out of my wits. Though he was really scared with that episode, with that incident, yet he still had that intelligence left, that what is he going to do. On the way down, I planned. He started making a plan, a strategy you may call. When my feet hit the bottom, I would make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. So he was making a strategy that as he will hit the bottom, he will make a big jump and will come to the surface. Then he will lie down and paddle on to the edge of the pool. While he was making a plan how would he come onto the surface, he realized that the way downwards was very long. Those 9 feet, although the swimming pool at the deep side was just 9 feet, but for him at that moment it appeared as it was 90. And before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. He realized that he could no longer hold his breath, and his lungs started aching. But when my feet hit bottom, I summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great spring upwards. So when his feet hit the bottom, he gathered all his strength and made a great jump towards the upper side. And what he actually thought that he had made a great spring upwards. I imagined that I would bob to the surface like a cork. Now, as per his planning, he imagined that when he is going to make a big jump or a sudden great jump towards the upper side, he would pop up to the surface like a cork. Now, against his whole planning, instead I came up slowly. The movement upwards was very slow. What he had actually imagined that he would suddenly come on the surface, this did not happen. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water. Water that had a dirty yellow tinge to it. When he was in that pool, he realized that the water had a yellowish shade, dirty yellow shade. I grew panicky. He got scared. I reached up as if to grab a rope and my hands clutched only at water. He had made a strategy, but he realized that his strategy is not working as per what he had imagined it would work like. So when he tried coming up, he thought he is going to grab hold some kind of rope or something, but his hands clutched only at water. I was suffocated. He was really running out of breath. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. He tried screaming for help, but no sound could come out from his mouth. Then my eyes and nose came out of water, but not my mouth. He realized that only his eyes and nose could come out of water, but his mouth did not turn out of the water. I flailed at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. He really was waving wildly at the surface of the water for help, but what he got in return was just more and more water. I tried to bring my legs up. He tried to pull his legs up, but they hung as dead weights, paralyzed and rigid. They had become so rigid, so still and tight and paralyzed. It was not moving at all, just because he had great fear. A great force was pulling me under. He felt as if a great force from downwards was pulling him towards it. I screamed, but only the water heard me. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool, and once again he had started his journey towards the bottom of the pool. I struck at the water as I went down. He started hitting the water as he was going downwards. Expending my strength as one inner nightmare fights an irresistible force. He felt that he was losing. Expending is losing his strength in a nightmare. Nightmares are the fearful dreams that you experience. He felt that he was losing his strength in those kind of fights to an irresistible and uncontrollable force, something that is beyond his control. I had lost all my breath. He was losing his breath. My lungs ached, my head throbbed. His lungs started paining and his head was experiencing a throbbing. I was getting dizzy. Dizzy is faint, like unconscious. He was becoming unconscious, but I remembered the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. He still wanted to work upon his strategy that as soon as he will hit the bottom, he would make a great push, and with the effect of that push, he would come on the surface of the water like a cork. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms and thrash with my legs. So when he will come on the surface of the water, he will lie down flat, strike out. Strike means to move his arms and hit the water with his legs. Then I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. And so doing all these activities, he would finally come towards the edge of the pool and will be safe. I went down endlessly, opened my eyes. Nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. So he kept moving down endlessly, felt that this journey is never going to end. And when he opened his eyes, he saw nothing but just the yellowish water, and he was feeling really scared at this point of time. And then sheer stark terror seized me. Terror that knows no understanding, terror that knows no control, terror that no one can understand. who has not experienced his. Now he says that while he was going down the second time and he could see nothing, just water, he got extremely frightened. He got terrorized, and the stark is severe terror gripped him. He was totally under the grip of that terror, and he says that this terror was taking a complete hold over him. This terror can be understood only by those who had really experienced it. He was shrieking underwater. I was shrieking underwater. I was paralyzed underwater, stiff, rigid with fear. He was so terrified because of that impact that he became motionless. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. He realized that his voice had got stuck somewhere. It appeared as if it is frozen. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. The two things which made him realize that he was still alive is the beating heart and the pounding in the head. And then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. Despite that he was really terrified, he wanted to be sensible. In the midst of the terror means in between that terrorizing experience, he still remembered to be sensible. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. He still wanted to follow the same strategy, that when he will hit the bottom, he had to remember that he had to jump upwards. At last I felt the tiles under me. Finally he realized that he had come towards the bottom. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had. He tried to jump with the remaining strength that he had, but it did not make much difference. The jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for ropes, ladders, water wings. He made a great jump. He thought he had made a great jump, but it made no difference. It hardly made any difference to it, because he could not come on the surface of the water. He still was under the water. He searched for ropes, ladders, water wings, something to grab. Nothing but water. He could not find anything except water. A mass of yellow water held me. Stark terror, that severe terror, took an even deeper hold on me. Now here comes that title, Deep Water, that how the terror was deepening into him like a great charge of electricity. That stark terror was taking a deeper root into him. I shook and trembled with fright because he had failed badly despite his efforts. He was really terrified. He was trembling. He was shaking with fright. My arms wouldn't move. My legs wouldn't move. The effect of that terror has made him motionless. He or has paralyzed him. I tried to call for help, to call for mother. Nothing happened. He tried to call somebody to help him. He even called his mother. He remembered his mother, but nothing happened. And then, strangely, there was light. Now, when he was going towards up the second time, he realized that he is coming towards the surface. I was coming out of the awful yellow water. He was feeling that he was coming out of that dirty yellow water. At least my eyes were. My nose was almost out too. Then I started down a third time, but nobody came for help the second time when he came onto the surface. And again he started his downwards journey the third time. I sucked for air and got water. He tried to breathe some air, but instead he got water. The yellowish light was going out. Again he could feel that the light was going out, and he was moving towards the darker side. Then all efforts ceased. Now, this third time, he made no efforts. All the efforts he was making to save himself stopped. I relaxed. Even my legs felt limp. lifeless. A blackness swept over my brain. Now he was completely out of any effort or any consciousness. His brain was experiencing a blackness. It wiped out fear, it wiped out terror. He was out of any terror. He was not feeling any fear now. He was becoming fearless. There was no more panic. He was not even afraid of anything. It was quiet and peaceful. He realized that now things were becoming very quiet. The agitation has stopped. It has become peaceful now. Nothing to be afraid. Suddenly, he had a strange feeling that there is nothing to be afraid now because he is moving closer towards death. The fear has gone, the terror has gone, and now he is feeling at ease. This is nice to be drowsy. He thought that it is nice to be drowsy, to go to sleep. No need to jump, too tired to jump. It is nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me. Tender means caring arms. He felt that something caring has come, which has taken him into his its arm. Tender arms like mothers. Now I must go to sleep. Now he really was experiencing his death coming closer. I crossed to oblivion. Oblivion is a state of forgetfulness. He forgot everything that he was doing till now, and the curtain of life fell. He was going closer to death. He was inching closer to death.
I am here including a short video which will help you understand what is near death drowning experience, how a person feel when he is drowning, what are his thoughts, what are his experiences at those final moments of life before the curtain of life fell. So you may relate it a little bit with William Douglas experience. This video is definitely going to help you understand what William Douglas might have experienced at that time.
The Art of Drowning. I wonder how it all got started, this business about seeing your life flash before your eyes while you drown. As if panic or the act of submergence could startle time into such compression, crushing decades in the vice of your desperate final seconds. After falling off a steamship or being swept away in a rush of floodwaters, wouldn't you hope for a more leisurely review? An invisible hand turning the pages of an album of photographs, you up on a pony or blowing out candles in a conic hat. How about a short animated film, a slide presentation, your life expressed as an essay or in one model paragraph? Wouldn't any form be better than this sudden flash, your whole existence going off in your face in an eyebrow-singeing explosion of biography? Nothing like the 3 large volumes you envisioned. Survivors would have us believe in a brilliance here, some bolt of truth forking across the water, an ultimate light before all the lights go out, dawning on you with all its megalithic tonnage. But if something does flash before your eyes as you go under, it will probably be a fish, a quick blur of curved silver darting away, having nothing to do with your life or your death. The tide will take you, or the lake will accept it all, as you sink toward the weedy disarray of the bottom, leaving behind what you have already forgotten, the surface, now overrun with the high travel of clouds.
Dear students, I hope that you have understood the few segments that I have taken in part 1 of this chapter, and I expect you to go through the chapter on your own. Still, if you have any queries or confusion, please mention it in the comment section. I will definitely answer to your queries. Thank you all for watching the video. Hopefully, you must have enjoyed the video.